What is going on, everybody? It's the France, and we're here for another episode of AEW on TNT Review for October the 9th, 2019. AEW hit the ground running last week, hit a massive home run, and they're all just continue to get better and better as we go. Tonight we had announced earlier this week, Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho versus Dustin Rhodes and Hangman Page, Shawn Spears versus Jon Moxley, and Darby Allin versus Jimmy Havoc to see who would face off against Chris Jericho next week on the program in the main event. And the Private Party took on the Young Bucks in the first round of the AEW Tag Team Title Tournament. What a show we had tonight. I have not seen NXT yet. I will be watching that later. NXT, of course, is something that we know is going to be always good, but AEW is still a major unknown because this is only the second episode, and so far, so good. Will it be good from here on out? Will it always be good? That is yet to be decided. We still have, I think by the end of this year, we will have an idea of how well AEW can go. Maybe by the end of this month. I'm still not going to sit there and be like, oh, well, they've had 2 out-of-the-park shows, definitely some good content on here. This one was definitely better than last week. This week they had a women's tag team match between Bea Priestley and I can't remember one of the Joshis. I can't remember her name versus Riho and Britt Baker. That match was better than what we saw last week with the Riho and Nyla Rose match. Unfortunately, with that match, the only reason I'm going to ding it a little bit is because we saw Britt Baker and Bea Priestley with 2 other partners the previous night on the dark matches that they did. Which, by the way, I'm not going to be reviewing AEW Dark. I don't see a need to, but let me know in the comment section below if you want to hear about AEW Dark, because if we do, I will scrap anything else that I'm doing on Tuesday night free match, of course, and we'll go with that, as well as NWA Power. Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and of course Excalibur on the call for this show. Private Party versus the Young Bucks started off this show. Hell of a match. Just one hell of a match. I cannot do this match justice. All I know is we had This Is Awesome chants, tag team wrestling. Vince, I hope you were watching. I'm sure you were at Stanford somewhere watching AEW when the crowd was chanting tag team wrestling when Isaiah Cassidy, Mark Quinn, Matt, and Nick Jackson put on an absolute classic. This was one of the best tag team matches in all of professional wrestling this year. Going along with the War Raiders versus Aleister Black and Ricochet, the War Raiders versus the Undisputed Era in January, that Fatal 4-Way Tag Team ladder match at NXT TakeOver 25, all of those tag team matches and then some. This was absolutely one of the best. Of course, the ladder match at All Out, but with an in-ring perspective, without all the nuances of a ladder match, I'd say this was an absolute classic. You had Isaiah Cassidy ducking super kick after super kick after super kick at the beginning of this match. Cassidy ends up on the apron. Nick kicks away Nick and hits an Asai moonsault onto Matt. Quinn tagged in and hits a massive springboard crossbody. Isaiah Cassidy took majority of the heat for this match for his tag team. So the Young Bucks did play a little bit of the isolation game on the Private Party. You had crossbody to crossbody, senton and senton, Fosbury flop by Mark Quinn. He was all over the place during the beginning of during part of this match. Bucks with some double super kicks on Quinn, and then Cassidy, Nick with a bit of a bloody nose. Matt tries for a sunset powerbomb off the apron. Cassidy hangs on, but Matt runs with Cassidy all the way up the ramp. He tries for a sunset powerbomb. Cassidy's like, no, you're not getting that. He's like, fine, I'll pull you and I'll run you all the way up and hit a powerbomb halfway up the ramp. That must not have been fun for Isaiah Cassidy. Quinn blocks a super kick and throws his foot into Matt. Nick goes for a suicide dive on Quinn. Quinn sidesteps him, and Nick goes out of the ring. Quinn looks for a hot tap to tag out, but Nick pulls Cassidy off the apron mat with a spear cover for a 2. Quinn was able to finally tag in. Cassidy with a drop kick on both Bucks. Kip ups, but sells his back injury. Double Hurricane Rana on both opponents. Private Party attempts a double team move, but Matt ends up landing multiple German suplexes on Cassidy. But then a double German. That's not right. It's not a German suplex. It was a Northern Light suplex. He did a Northern Light. He did 2. He did 3. He gets up for the third one, and Isaiah Cassidy Mark Quinn comes over and he hits both men with one. Absolute fucking awesome tag team moves there. And Cassidy tries to get to the ropes, but Nick flies with a springboard facebuster and hits a moonsault as he was in the sharpshooter. Matt had the sharpshooter on Cassidy. He's looking for the ropes, and out of nowhere, one negative I think AEW has right now is that the people who are running these cameras and changing to what spot we need to see. I've seen a couple times where we had a couple spots that were hit that were flashed away. I did one in the main event earlier. Also later on, I was like, did we really need to see like Jericho gets knocked to the outside and Sammy Guevara goes up to hit an enziguri onto, I don't remember who was on the top rope, we'll get to that later, and instead of seeing that spot, as soon he's charging up and they cut the camera to Chris Jericho laying on the outside, and I'm like, why did they do that? That made no sense to me. Flying tag by Quinn. Matt and Nick have some miscommunication. Quinn drops Matt, then hit a Hurricane Runner on Nick, sending him off to the second rope into the gin and juice for a 1-2 kick out. Quinn goes for the huge shooting star press. Cover no. Crowd thought it was over. People were going crazy for this. Matt is able to set up for the Meltzer driver, but Cassidy gangs Nick down. Quinn with a sneaky roll up for the 1-2-3. Private Party win the first match, and they will move on to face either the Jurassic Express or the Lucha Bros in 2 weeks. I'm hoping that next week we'll have Jurassic Express and the Lucha Bros as well as Best Friends versus SCU. In my opinion, it should be Jurassic Express and SCU going on to the next rounds because, quite honestly, I don't want to see the Best Friends versus the Dark Order ever again. We get they go to picture-in-picture as Private Party is celebrating in the crowd. I don't know why they did picture-in-picture for this. I don't think we needed to see this at home. Out comes Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, Ortiz, Santana, and Jake Hagar. Hagar, not Hager, Hagar, as Jericho would like to say it. This is the first big promo in the ring that we've seen from AEW, but Jericho made it count. If you have to see anything from AEW that's not a match, check out this entire promo from Chris Jericho. He shows you why we don't need scripted promos. I can tell you right now, this entire promo came out of his head. There was a "We the People" chant in this crowd when he mentioned Jake Hagar, and he just strips to shreds the fact that "We the People" was stupid. It's dead and buried. It was made by bad creative and bad booking, and he just like ripped that to shreds. But this entire promo. He says last week AEW was the highest rated premiere on TNT, and it was all because of him. People chant "Thank you, Jericho." Very loud "Thank you, Jericho" chants. He says "Shut up and sit down." Then introduces each one of his stalemates, saying Guevara is one of the most talented in the ring he is at his age, and he's on Jericho's list. Jericho says Santana and Ortiz are nastier than they've ever been. Back alley brutes, and they made the list. Jericho with a Viva La Raza. Today is Eddie Guerrero's birthday, so I guess that would be him giving a nod to Eddie Guerrero. There was an Eddie chant in the crowd, I believe. He introduces Jake Hagar. Crowd with the "We the People" chant. Jericho says that was a stupid idea by creative. It's dead and buried. He praises Hagar's MMA work. Said he's the toughest in AEW. He introduces this stable, and it is called the Inner Circle. It's not just any Inner Circle, it's Chris Jericho's Inner Circle. It's a good name. I've heard worse names, of course I've heard better names, but the Inner Circle works for this. Now, I said it before and I'll say it again. I looked at these guys and it's like everyone knows who Jake Hagar is, everyone knows who Santana Ortiz is, everyone knows who Chris Jericho is. Nobody, like only a select few know how good or who is Sammy Guevara. he is going to be the big winner out of all of this as long as he's with this group, because this dude, like this group, this inner circle has to be set up for him to be a breakout star, because he just is the one guy that nobody knows whatsoever. Now, speaking of Santana and Ortiz is just standing there. He has his tongue sticking out. He's like looking menacingly. He's like slick. His tongue's going back and forth. Like he's ready to. He's like off his rocks. Like he's ready to just like pounce on somebody, rip them to shreds. I fucking loved it. He calls Dustin Rhodes. He says, let's talk about Cody, and says he doesn't like Cody nor his family. He says, I don't like your dad, he's a jerk. He says, I don't like your brother, I'm going to kick his ass later. He says he's going to beat the ever-living shit. Doesn't get censored, by the way, which is fucking awesome. But gotta love TV 14. Out of Cody at Full Gear on November 9th. Awesome fucking promo. Again, me talking about it doesn't do justice. If you see one thing on this show, if it's not any wrestling, it's this fucking promo. This just shows you what we've all been saying for so long, that promos do not need to be scripted, and Jericho just showed you why. Jimmy Cameron says tonight is the biggest opportunity of his life. He takes on Darby Allin, the chance to become #1 contender. He says he's put himself, like, for 15 years he's been in wrestling. Pain. I've been through pain and agony, and I love the pain. I love the violence. I love all of it. And tonight is my shot to get to the AEW Championship. So it's punching himself in the face with both fists as he's talking. He is off kilter. Of course, this is a pre-recorded speech. But Darby Allin versus Jimmy Havoc, #1 contender for the AEW World Title, which will be happening next week. Allin looks for a handshake to get things started, back and forth action, each try on an early pinfall attempt. I'm going to be honest here. I am a fan of Jimmy Havoc. I am. I have been a fan of Jimmy Havoc since his time in What Culture Pro Wrestling / Defiant Wrestling. But Jimmy Havoc's biggest strength is his violence and his death matches. Most of the matches he would wrestle in Defiant Wrestling, WCPW, were Jimmy Havoc rules or matches that allowed weapons and barbed wire and all this other shit. Jimmy Havoc is great when it comes to having those type of matches. When he can do that, he thrives the best. Jimmy Havoc in normal, straight-up one-on-one matches is absolutely boring. I hate to say it, but Jimmy Havoc, as this type of wrestler, is absolutely just Snoresville. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the way he is. But Jimmy Havoc, as he is in this type of incarnation of him, or like having to sit here and try and work a normal match, it doesn't fit Jimmy Havoc. This is the guy who's won like the what is it, that tournament? I think it's the CZW tournament, that deathmatch tournament, multiple times. And when you it's just this match, it wasn't a bad match. It's just because Darby Allin is just absolutely fantastic. It's just Jimmy Havoc working these type of matches does not fit his character. Now, I know he can't go out there on TNT every week, bring out the tables, bring out the papers to cut people's fingers. He can't bring out the barbed wire and thumbtacks and everything. That's going to be safe for pay-per-view. But it's just, I just don't know what it is about Jimmy Havoc when it comes to doing these type of matches. It just doesn't fit him at all. One of the match is Darby Allin, who hits a coffin drop off the top rope into. He hits a flipping stunner. He blocks the ripcord, the acid rainmaker. He bites Jimmy Havoc's fingers, because Jimmy Havoc did that to him a couple times in the match. Flipping stunner, coffin drop, 1, 2, 3, and Darby Allin moves on to face Chris Jericho next week. Bea Priestley and Ema Sakura versus AEW Women's Champion Riho and Dr. Britt Baker. Why can you not give us just Britt Baker versus Bea Priestley? We want to see it. They want to have that match happen. Why must you stick these women in tag team matches? I'm gonna spoil it here, but Rio is going to be facing Britt Baker next week. What has Britt Baker done besides win a couple tag team matches to earn a shot at Rio is beyond me. I know, yes, winning counts and everything, but I would have rather seen, like, this was a good match. This was probably one of the best women's matches they've had so far, and that's not saying much, but I would have rather seen Britt Baker versus Bea Priestley, the winner moving on to face Riho next week. But I don't know what they're doing with this. Of course, Britt Baker and Riho win this match. You're not going to have the women's champion lose the next week after she won the championship. Bea Priestley and Britt Baker have some major heat all the way back to Fight for the Fallen, where Britt Baker got concussed by Bea Priestley. She did give her a nice shiner as well tonight. So there's that. Riho hit a crossbody off the top rope. We play out both women on the outside. They get back in the ring. Sakura breaks up a pin attempt on Priestley by Baker. Drags her partner back to the corner, so she tags in. Sakura with a running crossbody in the corner on Baker lands a Vader bomb, goes for the Vader bomb and twists into a senton, which was an absolute was absolutely cool. Cover for 2. She tries to lift up Baker, but gets counted into a cutter. Swinging that Baker by Baker, cover 2. Sakura is with some knees, but eats a discus elbow. Baker drops Sakura and locks in the rings of Saturn, and then she does a mandible claw, making her tap out. So Riho and Britt Baker win. Post-match, Baker and Bea Priestley are going at it a little bit again as they brawl some more. Referee and Riho break it up. Priestley is not done with Britt Baker by a long shot. Jennifer Decker talks with the best friends who are in the crowd for tonight's show. They're asked about how they're feeling about going against SCU next week in the tag team tournament. Chuck says, don't ask us, don't ask them, ask this guy. The crowd camera pans back and it's Orange Cassidy giving him a weak thumb up. Pac joins commentary for John Spears versus Jon Moxley. This match was intense. This match was unforgiving. These guys wanted to beat the holy hell out of each other. This was absolutely fucking awesome. These two beat the hell out of each other. Tully Blanchard got involved, of course. Jon Moxley is bringing his New Japan attire to AEW. The last time we saw him in an AEW ring was at Fyter Fest in that hardcore, that unsanctioned match where he was out there wearing the jeans and everything. Of course, if you follow Jon Moxley in Japan, he had an interview where he talked about how he's done wrestling in jeans because it's uncomfortable, and he wants to get back to wearing wrestling tights, so that is what he's wearing. Moxley gets right to Spears in his face. Blanchard tries to pull him back and gets a bit of a headbutt and bails to the ring. Pac on commentary makes a very valid point about something. Why is it that Pac, who beat Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, was not in that number 1 contenders match tonight? Why was Darby Allin and Jimmy Havoc, who don't have the best records, going and winning and getting that title match? Why wasn't he getting it? Outside of AEW, this dude has only been pinned once, and that was to lose the Open the Dream Gate Championship. Moxley chops away on Spears, kick to the back and then the chest, elbows, cover 2. Spears finally gets some shots, eats a big elbow that slows him down. Crowd is very much behind Moxley for sure. Spears bails out to the floor, but Moxley follows and launches him into the barricade. These guys just all over the place. You had Moxley hitting with a headbutt. You had multiple attacks on the outside. Spears just distracts the referee as Tully Blanchard shoves Moxley into the steel steps. Moxley hits Spears does the 10 count into his face. He grabs both hands, hits a headbutt, paradigm shift, or what we should be calling it, the Death Rider, which is a much better name. 1, 2, 3. Jon Moxley pins Shawn Spears. But after the match, Jon Moxley, soaking in the crowd, soaking in the jubilation of the crowd and everything. When we pan up to the stage, there's Kenny Omega. Now, what I thought he had for a second was he has a barbed wire baseball bat and a mop, but it's a broom, not just any broom, a barbed wire laced broom. Moxley approaches Omega and then throws the bat to Moxley, but Pac, who is not happy with the way he feels he's been treated in AEW, comes from behind with a chair to the back of Kenny Omega's head. He runs off. Moxley steps up to him when Pac points at Omega and heads to the back. Moxley thinks about whacking Omega with the barbed wire bat, tosses the bat, and heads to the back. So they're going to be having a match at Full Gear. I can't wait to see what happens between these two going into Full Gear, but Pac definitely not happy with the fact that he feels slighted by AEW because he, of course, has got one. He beat Hangman Page last week, who faced Chris Jericho for the world title, and he beat Kenny Omega on his debut match with the promotion at All Out. So he makes a very valid point, and Cody did say the reason that Darby Allin and Jimmy Havoc were getting this title opportunity tonight was because of the quality of their wins, with Jimmy Havoc winning the Cracker Barrel Clash and Darby Allin beating Shima and going the distance 20 minutes with Cody Rhodes. But honestly, Kenny Omega and Hangman Page getting beat by Pac, I think supersedes one of those guys, and it should have been possibly Darby Allin versus Pac or Jimmy Havoc versus Pac in this number one contenders match. Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara versus Dustin Rhodes and Hangman Adam Page. Now, Jericho, of course, Jake Hagar, not Hagar, Jake Hagar, you have to say it right, Hagar, was out there at ringside. You know he would play a factor later in the match. Dustin's in the middle of the ring, ready for a match. He wants, because Sammy Guevara is out there, he wants Chris Jericho first. Jericho tags in, it looks like we're going to get these two. But Jericho tags in Guevara, but Dustin's just not having any of this. He grabs Chris Jericho, he takes his shirt, puts him over, and he just starts laying in the heavy hits onto Chris Jericho. Takes him, he's outside, he's beating him from pillar to post on the outside, getting his shots in for everything that happened last week. Guevara tries to get in a sneak attack, but eats a nice little uppercut from Dustin. Back to the ring, Page tags in and goes to work on with some big lariats. This match goes a good bit, but Jericho hits the Judas effect on Dustin for the 1, 2, 3. Jump Guevara and Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho are your winners after the match, though. Jake Hager, who did attack, what happened with Jake Hager is that Chris Jericho was in the position for the Shattered Dreams in the middle of the turnbuckle. Sammy Guevara had the referee distracted. Hager comes in and lays out Dustin, which ends up with the Judas effect for the 1, 2, 3. So Hager, Sammy Guevara, and Chris Jericho are beating the piss out of Dustin. Page is up and he tries to help out, but the numbers are too much. As Hagar sends Page out to the floor, Page launches a chair at Hagar's face as he threw Hangman Page into where the timekeeper's area is and everything. These two fight to the back. Guevara and Jericho stomp away at Dustin. They're all happy and everything. Lights go out. Wait for a second. Dramatic pause. Lights go back on. Cody Rhodes is in the middle of the ring. He hits the crossroads on Guevara, sending him backwards. Cody and Jericho square up in the ring, but Santana and Ortiz blindside Cody. Jericho holds the title and celebrates as both Dustin tries to help out, but no avail. Jericho comes to attack Cody with the belt. MJF runs out with the chair, but pauses, teasing who he's going to hit. Jericho grabs Cody and picks him up and is like, hit him! Hit him! MJF, which, again, they're teasing MJF turning on Cody Rhodes. I fully expect MJF being the reason Cody will not be your AEW heavyweight champion coming out of Full Gear. MJF goes right after and hits Santana and Ortiz. Jericho bails for a moment. Crowd pops big for MJF's choice. He celebrates a bit but eats a code breaker. Young Bucks head out and go right after Santana and Ortiz. Jericho again gets out of the way, gets his title and celebrates a bit as Cody looks on from the ring. Young Bucks and Dustin join Cody. Jericho throws down the referee, down the ramp, and all of a sudden, you just see Darby Allin on his skateboard, ride his skateboard down, leaps off of it, lays out Chris Jericho, takes his skateboard and whacks him on the back. He hits him in the stomach first, flips it over and whacks him on the back. Jericho gets the mic and says, "You stupid idiots don't know who you're dealing with. Next week is your funeral." He says, "Cody, I'll see you at Full Gear on November 9th. Darby, I'll see you next week. It's your funeral, bitch." Cody and company stand tall in the ring, and the show comes to a close. Absolutely a fantastic show. Not, like I said, there's still some kinks that they need to work out of. Like I said, Jericho, I believe it was Dustin who was on the top rope when Sammy Guevara came to do something. I don't know exactly what he was trying to do. He ran up and hit Dustin with something, because the camera cut away to Chris Jericho, who fell to the floor. I don't know why they had that camera angle showed. I mean, yes, they can see it in the back, because if you see any backstage stuff with like monitors and stuff, you see that they have like every angle on a big screen, and then they have the screen next to it, which is what we see. So why they had to switch to that one instead of letting us see the spot that Sammy Guevara hit on Dustin is mind-boggling. It's like that's something that I don't know who's running and telling them to go to what camera, but they need to work on that, do some test runs or whatever, because there was many times on like Double or Nothing, Fight or Fest, Fight for the Fallen, and All Out, and last week and this week that there have been spots that we at home cannot see because you switch to a different camera, and it just takes away from that spot. After you could have Chris Jericho hit the code breaker on somebody or hit the Judas effect, and if you switch to a different camera at that time, what the hell happened? We didn't see the Judas effect or code breaker because you switched the camera. Well, in all, this was another excellent episode of AEW on TNT. Hit that subscribe button, comment down below, like or dislike this video. Find me on Twitter at The France Club. Find me on twitch.tv/The France Club as well. And I'll see you guys tomorrow afternoon, probably about 7 or 8 o'clock tomorrow night for NXT. I'm going to give myself a good bit of rest. Watch the show. I hear Gulak and Leo Rush, Walter and Kushida, and Roderick Strong and Isaiah Swerve Scott were 3 great matches. I can't wait to watch those. I will see you guys tomorrow afternoon for NXT. Until then, my name is France, and I'll see you guys later.